When you're working with real estate statistics, whether it's to create a listing presentation or maybe a market report, or even if you're just trying to do it to come up with data to share on social media, it's important to understand the difference between average and median when it comes to the statistics you're quoting. Now, most commonly in real estate, people use averages, things like average price per square foot, average days on market, average sale price, and other things like that. But it's important to understand that averages and medians can display two very different pictures of the data that you're actually analyzing. In this video, we're going to break down what the difference is between the average and the median and talk to you about why you should be using median instead of average. Hey, what's up? It's Jeff with Property Brain. And in this video, I want to talk about average and median, what the difference is between them, and why you should be using median instead of average. Now, first of all, it's important to understand that most real estate statistics that you have been quoting, or ones that you see anywhere, are most likely referring to the average. It's the industry standard. But the question becomes then, why should we be using median instead of average if the standard has always been the average? To do that, we're going to break down what the two different types of statistics are and highlight where they have their strengths and weaknesses. And then we're going to explain how there's currently a little bit of a disagreement when it comes to agents versus appraisers and the way that they're both looking at the data. So first thing, let's jump in and talk about what is an average versus a median. Simply put, an average is just the total of the data divided by the number of data. So if you have 10 data points, 10 sale prices, you take all 10 sale prices, you add them up, you divide by 10, and that gives you the average. Now, the idea of the average is to try and find the middle point of the data. And while in theory that seems like a good way to do it with the average, it can be highly skewed depending upon what the data actually is. We'll talk about that more in a minute. Now, a median in comparison is just the middle point of the data. So again, if you have 10 data points, the middle point is going to fall between points number 5 and point number 6. If there's an odd number, it might fall exactly on one of the data points. So you can see by using a median, you are actually getting the middle point of the data. So now that we know what the difference is, let's talk about a time where using the average could actually work well. Now, the main time that would happen is when you're using data that is pretty symmetrical. For example, let's say you have a set of comparable properties that has sales ranging from $500,000 to $600,000, where there's sales pretty much all the way in that range. You have them evenly distributed all the way from 500 to 600,000 and scattered in between, but the data is not skewed to the low end or the high end. There's not outliers on either end with a clump in the middle, but rather it is evenly distributed all the way from $500,000 to $600,000. In this example, because of the fact that you have data that's evenly distributed all the way in that range, you're going to be able to get a pretty good estimate of the actual middle point when you're using the average. Unfortunately, where it becomes a problem is a lot of times in real estate data, we don't have the evenly distributed data sets, right? If you pull a search in a neighborhood and you're looking up something like 2-story homes that are 3,000 to 4,000 square feet and have a 2 to 3 car garage, you might get price ranges that vary hundreds of thousands of dollars. And you might even get where a lot of the data is on the low end or a lot of data is on the high end or something like that, in which case you no longer have an evenly distributed data set. In this case, you either have one of two things. You have a data set that is skewed one direction or another. For example, if you have 50% of your homes that all fall in the lower $50,000 of a $200,000 range, that would be skewed towards that bottom. Or you have something where a lot of your data is in a large segment, but then you have a few outliers. And this is one of the things that actually skews the data even more, in my opinion, when you have a data set with outliers and you use the average. So now that you know some of the flaws of averages, let's talk about median and how it compares. First off, like we said, median is just the middle point of the data, right? So when should it be used? In our opinion, we think that median should be used at all times. And the reason for that is because in an evenly distributed data set, the middle point of the data is equally as good when you're using the median as the average. But when you get to the scenario where you have skewed data or data with outliers, the median point actually becomes a lot more accurate. Let's look at an example of skewed data. In this example, we have 10 homes that sold. The first 7 sold for $500,000, $502,000, $504,000, $506,000, $508,000, $510,000, and $512,000. The remaining 3 sold for $530,000, $532,000, and $534,000. In this case, the median would have a price of $509,000. That falls right between 0.5 and 0.6. But the average would have a price of $513,800. Now, as you can see in this example, by using the average, we actually have a much higher sale price than if we used the median. And in this case, you have an average sale price that actually is above 70% of the data. We had 7 data points that all topped out at $512,000, but our average sale price is coming in over $513,000. And it's because even though we have 10 data points, they are skewed towards the low end of the price range, and only 3 data points were above that. Now again, by using median and getting the $509,000 price, we're actually more accurately representing the typical data point that is in our data set than if we use the $513,000 average. Now let's look at another example, and in this case we're going to look at a data set with outliers. In this case, we again have 10 sales. Those sale prices are $500,000, $502,000, $504,000, $506,000, $508,000, $510,000, $512,000, $514,000, and then 2 outliers of $580,000 and $590,000. Now in this example, we still have a median price of $509,000. It still falls between points 5 and 6. And that $509,000 is very representative of the overall data set in the fact that 80% of our data all falls below $514,000. But if we looked at the average price in this data set, we see that the price of $522,600 is significantly above 80% of the data points, and it's all because of those 2 outliers. Now, you might be saying, Jeff, those outliers did potentially affect the market, right? They are sales in the market. And while that might be true, it's likely that those 2 properties, there's something different about them. We all know that a home that sells for $510,000 and one that sells for $590,000 are most likely not similar. Maybe one is more updated, or it's larger, or it's got a larger lot, or it's from a better quality builder, or there's something about it that makes it not a great comparable. Now, ideally, you would like to be able to exclude this type of data from your data set. And you can do that with really good search criteria and trying to narrow out anything that does not seem like it would be a good comp. But at times, you're just not going to be able to get rid of some of these outliers or some of this skewed data. And so in this scenario, when you're looking at whether to use median or average price per square foot, or median or average sale price, or median or average days on market, it's important to realize that by using the median, you're protecting yourself from the fact that your data set might not always be as clean or as good as you want it to be. If you went and used averages, you would need to make sure that your data set was extremely similar and was cleaned up to avoid any outliers, or to make sure that the data wasn't skewed in one direction or another, and that way you would still be able to get a good representation of value. But by using median, we can avoid all these problems while still being able to make sure that we're factoring in some of these comparables that might be outliers or might be part of the clump that is skewed. And the reason we sometimes don't want to exclude those is because they may still be a comparable, and we may still need to make adjustments for things like square footage or view or condition or quality or something like that. But they might still be a property that could be a good comparable. Or maybe it's one that sold the most recently, and therefore, even though it's a little bit bigger or better or whatever, you want to use it and be able to bring it down in value. Or if it's on the low end, you might need to bring it up in value to make sure that you're representing the time adjustments correctly and all the other things that we've talked about more in depth in other posts. Now, like I said a little bit ago, this doesn't just apply to the sale prices. I know we use those as the examples, but this can apply the same way to things like days on market, average price per square foot, list to sale price ratio, or any of the other statistics that you're using in any of your marketing materials or in your conversations with buyers or sellers. It's important to realize that if you get in the habit of using the median, quoting the median, and advertising the median, you're going to be doing a better job of actually representing the data that you're analyzing and giving the end consumer a better understanding of the data than if you use the average. Now, I understand that the average is the typical thing. This is where we would encourage you to do your own diligence, to actually run your own numbers, whether that's through Excel, whether that's through something like Property Brain. Wherever you want to do it, that's fine. But ultimately, if you want to be the best agent possible, if you want to provide the best quality service to your clients as possible, you need to be breaking these things down and coming up with a method that makes it stand out that you are the knowledgeable professional who's actually able to better analyze this type of data. Now, you might not be a numbers nerd like me, and I get that. But ultimately, your job as a real estate agent, real estate appraiser, or whatever you are in the real estate industry, your job is to be able to look at real estate data and determine what that means. What does that mean for a sale price? What does that mean for a listing price? What does that mean on an appraisal? What does that mean in the amount that you should borrow? Whatever it is, by analyzing data better, you're going to be able to do your job better, and you're going to be able to provide better service to your clients. I believe that one of the best ways you can do that is to really grasp this concept of using median instead of average. If you keep using the averages, for the most part, it works out okay. But I know you're not watching this video because you just want to have your business be okay. You want to build the best business possible. You want to be the best realtor, the best appraiser, or the best investor. You want to be the best. That is why you need to make sure you're taking the correct steps to use the correct data. And the median is definitely better than using the average. Anyway, I hope that gives you a better idea of medians and averages, and really why I would encourage you to use the median from this point forward. I hope that it answered any questions you had about them, but if you have any additional questions, I'd love to answer them. Definitely just shoot me an email, send me a direct message, leave a message here on the video, whatever you want to do. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have to help you figure out if going the route of calculating your own statistics and coming up with the medians is the right thing for you. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you found some of this information helpful. If you did, I'd love it if you'd hit the like button. And while you're at it, go ahead and follow us on some of your favorite social media channels to make sure that you can connect with us, where we can answer questions and just get to know you a little bit. Thanks again for watching the video, and we'll see you in the next one.